It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and from our studios on MDI Road, this is the news. First, the headlines. The December 1st presidential candidates unveiled development plans to their electorate and promised to implement them if voted into office. The Vice President returns from the Marrakesh Climate Change Conference, which challenged delegates to implement national strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emission. Gambia Bureau of Statistics and IMF step up effort to standardize global financial reports for a better and informed policies on national accounts in the continent. And Chinese President hints that Beijing will lead the global trade, this as APEC leaders adopt declaration on advancing free trade and protectionism. Well, viewers, these and more coming ahead in the next 30 minutes. I am Winifred Nicole. Thanks for joining us once again. President Jammeh has announced plans to provide free and uninterrupted water and electricity supply for the people of Jara West constituency. The Gambian leader made the remarks at the Japune, where he also promised to build two major health centers in Japune and Kabada, and as well connect roads linking the villages. H.N. Silva tells us more.
Consolidating the unprecedented gains chronicled by the glorious 22nd July Revolution in a rather enthusiastic fashion, the presidential entourage last Sunday headed to Jara in the Lower River region after those two meetings in Gambisara and Passe. The President, His Excellency, Sir Professor Dr. Alhaji Jammeh Babili Mansa, was handed over to the Governor of the Central River region by his colleague Umar Sompo Sise at the boundary separating the two regions, and later drove several kilometers to the next dividing line separating CRR and LRR, where Governor Omar Kantu handed him over into the safe hands of Salif Pui. The President's convoy then proceeded to Japine in Jara West for a meeting. Japine has not played host to such a high-profile meeting for a very long time. The last time the community had a chance to do so was during the good old days of the transition, precisely in the lead-up to the referendum. His historic return to the village after almost 2 decades of absence was by and large a phenomenal one. People of all walks of life joined the inhabitants of Japine itself to put up this mouth-watering crowd, perhaps to make up for lost time. Here there is no need for voter education. The people in this community are fully conscious of the significance of elections as a synchronon of development, because their cumulative experience in voting, coupled with the spirit of loyalty they are known for, can speak for itself. In his brief but captivating statement, the President expressed thanks to the people of this constituency for their unbeatable support over the years, but felt indebted to them. He vowed to transform the entire constituency with consistent potable water and uninterrupted electricity supply, which he said would tentatively be in gratis for a period of 10 years. The President also promised to build major health centers at Japine and Kabada and to connect these two settlements with a state-of-the-art road facility in order to ease travel time and save lives. Also commenting on other futuristic plans Jammeh has for the community and Jara East by extension, the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, Fatulamin Faye, disclosed that the community of Japine will in the no-distant future have its own senior school in order to stem the number of students traveling all the way to summer in pursuit of knowledge. Meanwhile, the soft-talking minister also encouraged the APRC faithful here to massively participate in voting on the day of elections and not to do otherwise. Village Alcalo Bori Demba, Chief Alhaji Bakari Damfa, and Aja Mansata Kebe all commended President Jammeh for the numerous developments which they said continue to positively impact on their lives and livelihoods. The trio also unanimously assured the President of their votes on the day of the elections. After that meeting in Japine, the President himself later proceeded to the administrative town of Soma for another rally, but not without this crowd-pulling welcoming staged in his honor. There, the President, as usual, did not mince words. He directed part of his statements at some Western powers and their one-sided approach towards sovereign African states, as well as their attempted and failed plans to wreak havoc on the country on numerous occasions. His presidency, he insisted, is ordained and shielded by God, and destabilizing it, he said, would be a non-starter. The Gambia, he said, is one country where education and medical care to pregnant women are dished out to citizens free of charge, further pointing out that the country is second in the globe where healthcare service delivery is provided to the populace cheaply and affordably. Making contrast between the giant strides his government attained in ensuring gender parity and that of some Western nations, the Gambian leader went on to explain that his government has registered remarkable success in that aspect, citing the vice president as a shining example. Professor Jammeh later concluded his statement by advising the young people to only exploit the positives of social media and not misusing it for what he called sinful acts. Transport Minister Balagaba Jahumpa, who also holds the portfolio of campaign manager of the APRC party, took time to document the many developments brought to Gambians by the president, as well as a long list of other brand new ones, which he said would follow in earnest. The people of Soma and surrounding villages later took to the floor to convey their appreciation to the president for responding to their needs, such as the construction of the $12 million Soma Tendasi Kunda Access Road, which they said facilitates access to their rice fields. Speakers including Chief Yaya Jajusi and Afan Abdul Dabo all vowed to overwhelmingly vote for President Jammeh in the upcoming elections. The president is expected in Kian-Keneba this afternoon before continuing to Kalaji in the West Coast region for another welcoming and meeting. Etienne Silva, GRTS News.
Ahmad Jallo, allies OJ of the opposition coalition, has said that a coalition government will revitalize Karoo as a major agriculture and business hub, given its strategic location. OJ was speaking at a mass political rally ahead of the December 1st presidential elections. Mamadou Jallo reports on that and other rallies in the Central River region.
The campaign for the December 1st presidential elections continuing as the coalition of political parties under the leadership of Adama Barrow held mass political rallies in Sarakunda, Kawur, Panchang and Jakaba, all in the Central River region. The rallies were well attended as well as endured long hours waiting for the entourage. The coalition is sticking to its consistent message of change, which is repeated at all meetings by the leadership. At the Sarakunda meeting, coalition activists and local party leaders affirmed their unwavering commitment and support to Adama Barrow, pledging to massively vote for him in the elections. This endorsement of the coalition and its flag bearer by the people of Sarakunda was well received by the leadership, who are seeking to galvanize voters into action on December 1st to unseat the incumbent. In response, they urged voters to fulfill their pledge by voting massively for Barrow in the election. From Sarakunda, the entourage drove back to Kawur for a meeting with former Ahmad Jallo allies OJ. A one-time agriculture minister reminds him of the old days when Kawur was a major agriculture producing and processing center. OJ Mandela Kawur has, in his words, collapsed and now remains a ghost of its former self. He made the blame squalling on the APRC government, accusing them of mismanaging the agricultural sector across the country. The coalition government earlier promised will restore Kawur to its glorious past by helping farmers and rebuilding agricultural infrastructure. Such a strategy, according to Ali Fasala, will empower youth by enabling them access finance and tools to engage in agriculture. Honorable Sala argued that the youth cannot engage in agriculture when they lack the basic tools and equipment to venture into such labor-intensive occupations. The socialist ideologue dissected the issues at stake, explaining in detail how mounting debt burden and what he called lack of accountability is taking a toll on the economy and the people. This, Salah said at all the meetings, is unsustainable in the medium and long term, and urged voters to remedy the situation in December by voting for Adama Barrow. Later Panchang in Lower Salem, Dr. Isaac Ture continued her advocacy for youth and women's empowerment, said the condition of these two vulnerable groups leaves a lot to be desired. Speaking specifically about illegal migration, we have seen many young people risk their lives to cross deserts and seas in the hope of a better life in Europe. Dr. West said it is as a result of desperation and lack of opportunities that are feeding this deadly phenomena. In order to turn the tide, Dr. Ture urged the people of Panchang to vote for the coalition, which has drawn out a strategy to create employment opportunities and skills training centers across the country. The minority leader and National Assembly member for Nyamina Dankunko, Honorable Samba Jallo, pleaded with the people to end what he called the climate of fear, mutual suspicion and impunity on December 1st by voting for change. He told the people to realize that a new dawn is on the horizon, which provides Gambians the perfect opportunity to reclaim their rights as citizens. The day climax with a massive rally at Jakaba near Kuntawul We saw an impressive turnout from the people of Nyani, who waited all day to welcome the coalition entrant. The village chairman Alaji Dimbo Jede, in welcoming the guests, said the people of Nyani are resolved to, in his words, salvage the country from its present state to a more prosperous future. He commended the leaders of the political parties for overcoming their differences for the sake of the country to effect a peaceful change of government. Mr. Yadi lamented the current state of agriculture in Nyani, which he said has collapsed as farmers cannot provide their own food anymore. He therefore urged Mr. Barrow to prioritize the sector if elected. In response, the coalition leader, Arana Barrow, who addressed all previous meetings, thanked the people of Nyani for what he called a good welcome, which is truly reflective of the collective desire for change. This same desire, Barrow added, is what motivated him and his colleagues to unite in order to change the status quo. Adopting the same line as in previous meetings, Mr. Barrow outlined his strategy of revamping the agricultural sector and economy through investment and job creation for Gambians. On a final note, he hailed the GDP leader Usuru Dawo as a great patriot who sacrificed everything to ensure that Gambians live dignified and free lives. He described him as his political godfather, whose absence has only emboldened the opposition to ensure that his dreams are realized. This speech effectively brought the meeting to a close as the entourage continued its journey into Same for a night stop at Karantaba. The campaign continues today with planned rallies in Pachonki, Diabogo, and Wuli Medina. Hello, GRTS News.
The leader of the Gambia Democratic Congress, Mama Kande, has called on the people of Upper and Lower Salem districts to vote for him and their development. The GDC independent candidate made these remarks as his campaign team arrived in the Central River region. Louis Mendy has more.
If I am made president, the Gambia-Senegal border will never be closed under my tenure, aspiring presidential candidate Mama Kande told the people of North Bank region before exiting to Central River region, where he was first received by the people of James Sanjal in Lower Salem. Here Kande told the faithful, I hear you, I know your story, and I'll fix your development challenges and that of all Gambians if you vote me into office. Kande's response came after Musan Jai and our Jai said Lower Salem needs good roads and electricity.
GDC will
When GDC wins, development in most cases will be community demand driven. It is you, the people of Nien Sanjal, who will tell us what you want. To put the Gambia in a better position in the global fight against climate change, poverty, hunger, disease, and terrorism, Kande told the people of Balangar that he'll establish sustainable ties with developed nations. Kande was grateful with support accorded to him by the women.
ñu gërëm jigéen yi Balangar yi si Balangar mu soo ak tundu Balangar yi ndax barke.
I thank the women of Balangar because success is only achieved with support from good women. In Kaur and Jao in Upper Salem, CRR North, where Kande's meetings lasted into the night, the message of peace in the build-up to the election was central in the rallies as the GDC party traveled on the motto Change for a Better Gambia, drummed support for leader Mama Kande. The power is yours. With your votes, you decide who becomes your next president, and this is what I want Gambians to know. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
The Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Aja Dr. Aissatou Njie Seydi, was among thousands of delegates who converged on the Moroccan city of Marrakesh for a 2-week conference of parties, also known as Conference of Action, which seeks to address the impact of greenhouse gas emissions. Fatou Janebay was there, and this is her report.
The 22nd session of the Conference of the Parties COP22 and the 12th session of the Conference of the Parties to the Kyoto Protocol CMP12, otherwise the Marrakesh Climate Change Meeting, is officially opened in the Moroccan city of Marrakesh. The 2-week climate change conference attracts more than 24,000 delegates from across the world. The yearly conference is aimed at gathering and sharing information on greenhouse gas emissions and national policies, and as well as implement national strategies for addressing the issue of greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to the many impacts of climate change.
The Paris Agreement, as we all know, is to hold global average temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius. above pre-industrial levels and pursue efforts to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius as requested by the LDCs and other parties vulnerable to climate change, including, of course, the Gambia. Without tangible and meaningful mitigation efforts, of course, and actions to limit greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, adapting to the adverse effects of climate change will become impossible, particularly for the most vulnerable countries.
As a sign of its efforts and commitments to take on the challenge of climate change, the Gambia, she added, through its 2015 intended nationally determined contribution, commits to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions from key sectors of its economy by 44.4% in 2025 and 45.4% in 2030.
Finalized its climate change policy since 2002 and has been combating sea level rise and coastal erosion through its own means and resources. And it has ensured climate change mitigation actions as well in key sectors and has implemented adaptation projects under its NAPO program. This includes climate change, early warning systems, coastal protection, as well as resilience building.
This is a due dawn for global cooperation on climate change. The Paris Agreement is one of the most complex and ambitious and far-reaching vision ever reached by the United Nations, by the international community.
The King of Morocco, His Majesty Mohammed VI, describes the North African nation as the land of dialogue and coexistence. Hosting the conference of the parties in Marrakesh, he went on, shows the significance his kingdom attaches to the issues of the environment. Morocco, he revealed, is among the first countries to have played a part in raising global awareness about climate change, describing the convergence as a decisive turning point and the implementation process of the Paris Agreement. For the President of the United Nations General Assembly, addressing climate change is no longer only an investment in future generations. The impact of climate change has been felt today by almost every country in the world.
The last few years have been the hottest in recorded history, with current trends in greenhouse gas emissions pointing to further warming. Catastrophic climate events are already affecting hundreds of millions of our fellow human beings.
Patricia Espinosa is the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
This historic day is marked by the first conference of the parties to the Paris Agreement. This would not be possible without the dedication shown by many of you here today, and I thank you for that.
Mariam 16 and the representative of the youth of Morocco was also given the opportunity to address the high-level meeting, as young people play a crucial role in addressing the challenges of climate change. A video presentation entitled The Sustainable Kingdom was presented to the delegates at the end of the event.
COP22 is the first conference after the Paris Agreement that was held in France last year, and it sends out a clear message that climate change is real and we need to act fast. Now, according to the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the fight against climate change is not a one-man show and therefore requires the concerted efforts of all parties to ensure that there is a healthy environment for the next generation. Now, world leaders during the COP22 here in Marrakesh also pledged $100 billion to the least developed countries to adapt to the effects and impacts of climate change. Now, reporting from the UNFCCC Center here in Marrakesh, I am Fatou Janimbai.
Well, that report by Fatou Janimbai takes us to a forced break, but we will be back with news from outside the Gambia. Don't go away. Welcome back. Chinese President Xi Jinping has been attending the just concluded APEC summit in Lima, Peru. Leaders of the 20-member economies have issued a joint statement endorsing free trade and speaking against protectionism. CCTV's Dan Collins tells us more.
The leaders of half the world's economy set aside their differences for a traditional APEC staple, the leaders' group photo. Donning typical Peruvian shawls, they stood shoulder to shoulder. President Xi Jinping stood alongside the host, Peruvian President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski. US President Barack Obama, on the final stop of his last foreign trip as leader of the world's largest economy, stood in the back row. Tough discussions aside, they all agreed on the benefits of free trade.
This has emphasized in a very clear way that free trade, open trade, is fundamental for the world's prosperity.
In a final statement, Kaczynski said protectionism would hurt the 21 Asia-Pacific economies represented here. A clear reference to fears that Obama's successor could change the landscape for trade in the Asia-Pacific region. Speaking at a bilateral meeting between China and the US on Saturday, President Xi pledged to open up China's economy even more and expand cooperation with the US.
Both China and the United States are important member economies in APEC. China stands ready to have more coordination with the U.S. and to work alongside others to make sure the meeting in Peru is a success and to inject new momentum into regional economic cooperation and the growth of the Asia-Pacific economy.
In his keynote address on Saturday, Xi hinted that Beijing would take the lead in global trade if Washington turns protectionist. President Xi Jinping said he would not shut China's door to the outside world, but open it up more. He said innovation and connectivity were new sources of growth, which would boost open, free trade across the Asia-Pacific. China will promote its vision for regional trade through 2 free trade bloc proposals, one of which excludes the United States. Dan Collins, CCTV, Lima.
We will take another short break now. We'll be back in just a moment.
The National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, informs the public that on December 1st, 2016, the Gambia will hold a presidential election where eligible citizens will elect a leader who will spearhead the affairs of the country for the next 5 years. The conduct of presidential election is a constitutional requirement as enshrined in Section 46 of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia. Elections are important because it strengthens democracy, maintains peace, and gives citizens a voice in the government by allowing them to choose their own leaders. Voting is a civic duty which every patriotic citizen should discharge as enshrined in Sections 26 and 39 of the Constitution. Every vote is important as each can make a difference. Thus, all voters are highly encouraged to go out and vote for their candidate of choice on December 1st, 2016. Gambians are reminded again to stay away from violence during the period to ensure that peace and stability prevails. The Gambia has a secret ballot system. Your vote is secret and it will not be known by anyone. Vote wisely and do not sell your vote because your vote is your voice and your future.
Welcome back. And before we take leave of you, a recap of today's main stories. The December 1st presidential candidates have unveiled development plans to their electorate and promised to implement them if voted into office. The Vice President has returned from the Marrakesh Climate Change Conference, which challenged delegates to implement national strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Gambia Bureau of Statistics and IMF have stepped up effort to standardize global financial reports for a better and informed policies on national accounts in the continent. And Chinese president has hinted that Beijing would lead the global trade, this as APEC leaders adopt declaration on advancing free trade and protectionism. Well, viewers, that was all in this edition of the News at 10. From me, Wilfred Nicol, and the entire news team, thanks for the pleasure of your company, and do stay with us.
Voilà. Jëkkëri Xadi Boy. This bloody fool you smoke bi amul lu ma wax.
Xanaa ma sande la sa gannaaw bay la ko ma.
Crazy. Di wax ñu ko dund. Amina. Ah, ben non. I want you to hammer her. Until she understand that this Lami, don't fuck me up.
Yo la xaalis pour nga takkal ma jabar nga dem nga ma dem takkal sa ceebe ba pare di ko jabaroo suma teg.
Fulu ma support yi ma gagne ci alasa. Fulu ma ay botam delaw ma ganam.
Dugg la doom. Ay na ñu doom. Xalaat sama ma ngeen.
Amul ma fa doom bi ci kaw bu mi sey nga ko am.
Danaa amut man dama laa wax ni damaa takk ñaareel takku naa la.
Lépp ma la ko. Dëgg la ma wax ni loolu la ma
Hello and welcome
to the Gam Exclusive Entertainment Show.
coming to you on GRTS TV.
Gambian exclusive competition now. Kick it up. Now, Miss Sister.
Hear me out tonight. Yes, I'm feeling alright. Cause you're watching Gam exclusive right now on GRTS. So everybody talk.
Gam exclusive, Gam exclusive, Bidalale, music, Bidalale, Bidalale, Katafo.
Hello and welcome.
wala mu honorable Halifa Sallati. Assalamu alaikum. Indi wuli tawi kolot anin ke wala bela eta basic school la ko. Indi wuli tawi lolu anin ke tembaka wala bela high school la ko. Sanji tan anin fula kola indi wuli kenya na anin fe wala be jila wala be do ko soto na nyaati. For the follow document karabulu Dimoya si documentarable. Mama na si documentarable. Koda de kala yaadi ate Will funding kill men do ko so you futu la yaadi. Ka fo ko moye ta ka selo. Joro te bul. Jamman do te bul. Turo te bul. Ebe selo kala yaadi. Kummayat moni la hakkilo to back political market chakanos sanji tan nani anu woro komat Gambia keta banku ko tote janamala wolu Gambia keta republic iko man samantere kerim ko to nyim banku di wonde tamu bankot woni akendi katta keso be bulu katta keso mu kan wala ci banku di ya kawo katta keso mu symbole ci banku di ya sembo mo bele kalet il woto katta keso ke sembe kili kan ke sani pour que banko mara lu wonu fe kitika ni ma so be la porta de jumala nyanta banko to kula pour ye to ko soto ye talu wonde tamal de ya nat wole kanyato kaya nat pour le président yo tombo wadi sembe fulala ka bankole nafu malaka do kundu mo bela na fata ka sembo diala ay tanaye mara police mara sondare mara pour mun kam ye tanto la banko boy ko kana tora kana sila la banko bari bawa manke mansati sanjilo fo konti boro ya jibe wo sende ko ayata mandi nyadire ila nafaka na ma ta mandi la nafaka isa bundu leje ye ko soyano wala tuli kilin dise makaro wala nyante kala konti boro nyante kala ya jibe banko ji sanjilo komo ado kuto nyadire ila nafaka na man do ila nafaka ya bondi tede soyano wumban ko be balukan na molela anin julo min banko la aran keso do banko la da paso bawo mo be yalon ne ko da ka balu na men banko fala ka balu na ko da bu ka balu da paso ko ma ko da men da paso do ak tele banko bu ka balu na da paso ko banko men man da paso soto aka be bari da paso soto nya asi banko sandelo nyata wala asabi bilo din ko ko ni banko le balu kan na mo ni julo la abedun na din ko ko minen banko le da paso dala si million wuli tan dala si million wuli wo dala si million keme kono iko ito no be soto no isi men soto do dala si million wuli tan dala si million wuli fu dala si million keme kono wuli saba million keme kono to wuli be desala abe soto la ngadi julo wuli akendi banko la julo sani kono to julo dala si million wuli mo dala si million wuli dala si million keme Fantana julo wala siyata kono to julo woto ne julo kala ban ko duwe tema hani kay no mo wulu to bi ani dal so wulu lang julo la ko ko do la nya woto pour que banko bondi non do la ta bondi la so ya jibe nafulo men be banko kala adu fa nafulo be banko kala ni ka to kombo sale ba do sa ta to te be pande banko kala adu wa afrika ni dai bu ko mo fa men seneat woto mo men lota antini kili december kala ni mo ne dero jolo so coalition gameta lo tiyo le be kafula nyoma abang ko la kunya kisi utalan abe bola nyane aw asibono operativo si senelal bondo to na ko yetro so ya janna do so e sele jora ta to ko ta wa fa ta abe bata business lan fenen ko brade se ma ko le también fue microfinance que pudo dire la sembo la fa la ba jibe abilana isi wo ma ko no ye nyam ko 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 siata dia no fa na kangal ba silo de ke no ya kendi mo be kafata demokrasi de balu kan dame ni man talulu anin kilin soto keme kono ite sila pour que banko la president fo woto ye fulanja bari yo bondi banko la luat le men dunde alinde yo mo dan kate ke se kelin na ite la sila woto ne opposition jama not adena katto tina adena sembo tagala woto men be siri asi galera wala ya kendi opposition kabbanta ko yamo kilin tombon ko akata mo mot ya tambi ya mot abe soni ala pour ay gani bari pour ay no abe lola independent candidate yala wala ya kendi pour patio be sa kono ila candidate yo ba kendi la banko yake client and wele ya kendi adama baro tombot wele ya kendi abuka UDP pour mon kamma asini independent mo be sa foko na candidate o fel wele ke unsante fanan ko bawo man sayaman wonna sabatu la ñum banko kan wala ya kende banko mi yalla ko demokrasi bol kan je so tam limit yeso mi ya ke sanjulu la banta ite tambe la sanji tan la banko la foundation le doko sanko la bunda la foundation le doko ala buntoro ye doko la foundation ye doko boy tangoye bo ni bankoka ni mbaliyaye bo ni bankoka banko do wori bunya banko la fanko le bunda nyata tamala nyame roye retire woto patio be ye muru not momo men la fitamela e gamela bawa katto se fulanja ye momo tambende wo bintoro a foundation of benlota asila wo kan kabanko ko coalition la ammo mo yele yele katala mo mo wulet banko din yamu la malke chakalet banko din yamu marhamolet banko din yamu bunyalet banko din yamu sirarolet e yende sila men kan ye kuleya yake tanti ko banko bawo imi mentini malo itani metitalanna wo ko dem batala ka ke atati ye fala wo ko ala dunya arde makoro ite ya tara ila dunya jahannama ko mun dunya jahannama ti ni bata kolo nem bata kolo ke bata kolo sa bata kolo dino bata kolo man bata kolo sa bata kolo ila ko wala aade ci wax ju gat nit ku nekk war naa xam ki mu doon su xamul ki mu doon du xam li mu moom su xamul li mu moom keneen loo mën a ko boppam moom mu ñàkk ko koo ko nekk ci àdduna ci kaw suuf mu ngi nekk ci taxalama ci kaw suuf nit soo xamul sa bopp sa morom nit dina la def fas def buum ci sa baat wax ci sa kaw di la dàqee ngay taw di la dàqee ngay taw di la dàqee ngay taw mina diamu la flanga men ko manila so kuda tabla siata wona keda Omar Oje Diallo ati ko ko bi nak dana wax ci mom ndax so dege ma koy wax ak dama nek ci ligay tay mu jawara mu nekkon ci nguur gi di ligay lu reuy ci nguur gi yalla def mako don fekk sere ko nda don ko tegal kon su ma ñe il faut ma wax yow mi ni jay ku ko am la di wax yenu sefi rewmi abe banko sefo kontonna ini alkalis esew ak yeneen alkali abe esew alkalo kontonna ani alkali ko tawado ni elimani ratibi esew ak yeneen elimani abe asato almama ratibo kontonna ani almama ratibo ko tawado ni fa sun chamani gori ak sun yaay compagnie ak sun ndawi fi nekk kontaan nañ ci liñ gis tey akaba chairman so min ko be kontonna ani fondin kel men ya nan ko ne tara jang akoy kontaan ba baka yemen tara esew jang man dama xam ne Gambia su nekkee téeméeri nit ako ñata ni ko Gambia ni mo téeméeri do juróom ñetta fukk yépp ay béykat la sa nan ko moo tan fo be mu Sénégal nekki yàlla may na nag man ma ñëw liggéey fii ak baral ak Bafouleto ako ate oye ala dema anana do ko rajal fa do ko Bafouleto man nekk inspecteur Bafouleto ak Albadar coopérative aka na tak do ko coopérative aka la inspecteur to Bafouleto ak Albadar ma liggéey naan bay liggéey naan am ci gerte xam na akale ka men sene adare ka men soto tieto wato coopérative secrétaire ni ma Bafouleto ni abbe Albadar aya lange way tay ana seko yoyu ana gerte googu ako saya bari ni kala ana o seko ne ana to ko tie men soto ale bay ka di ñomo mon coopérative ako Sénégal l'État coopérative ki ñu leen tax xaalis e ka kono dina jox leen engrais e ka jambando dina jox leen jiw e ka toro dina jox leen go e ka Sénégal dina leen jumtuwaay e ka Sénégal do jama dina leen jaay seen gerte ko naan yàlla ti yon sang ngeen dem sey seen bo ani ta la gino jox moom seen bopp ay yàlla fan soto mané kan mooy yakkan seen taraga boobu mooy nguuri Yaya Jammeh ak APRC ako jumaale Allah betiya man sakunda me ya tiya wala mo Yaya Jammeh man sakunda ti wala ñu anen ala APRC patiyo dama na lu do yeen baykat yi ako man ka ñaata Sénégal nawet jot ku nekk wala dem ci toolam ako ñu sama cité momo ñent tare la ku ngoto président bi taw ci télévision ne ako président na lo télévision ko ko on leen pour ngeen bàyyi seen tool dem ci toolam kanilay pour dimbale ko yéen ñoo leen a dundee kon ako président na lo télévision ko aka faale ala na ku ngol tuji areta binde ko ñu kanilay say akol ñanta mo Sénégal be balu na menna léegi bay bi yakuna ako ba jël selo bu nda de ci ñaka léegi tool bi ba Gambia ako say ba jël ko kun ko men be dara Gambia ko no way kanilay fa ba jël ko wala kanilay fa am ki ale amatu liggéey ako fondin ko do ko man soto ale amatu ñaka mo ñakaro banta la taw ci télévision yena lo toneto o mbor mo xamne Sénégal yeen tan xambiro ko man na Sénégal mom ak jabaram anala ma so ngade ay million sika yene ko mo ator Gambia non netamo ko ye ko mo alfa ma ngel netamo alba ma ngel netamo o jox ko ay mbor aya sika di ñobo naan la to ko ay wayka di ko denki la ken ci ñoom ko adum motor ko ne ko Gambia me ya non ko ñum banko di wada yene fi akara be ñal amul len ñol le alman dama fay so be ma balu la men alman do ko soto amul len garab ci lopitaan man bo so tan na lopitaan to ako bu la kenn gënal sa bopp ako mo ka na fa sa fa dama ne ko bu la kenn gënal fele ako mo ka na tambi ta fa la balu mu banko la lolo ñu fi ci tay ako lolo tu ne to alfa ñaata jambi na ku nekk xalaatal boppam ako mo ye mi re fa yela ko fa tek ako akon le asindije yela ko sanil ako ye ka fa fay amane ako suma pamule aka fa ma ko am bo am ako yemen men soto ndesiti bir la ako ko la tawle moti wala xif am na baaw konko da konko soto na yakute amut wa we la fa manke so gisé mbo mu refet ako ne dem ka ñum mañe xifut ay ma non ko ma konko le memuta so de we dafa gore so mi amoy kar fo yaata e xifut wallahi konko memuta de man dafa am doole ako ni ko wasam bo soto dala hipu wa konko le memuta legi nak suñ toole Gambia fi ako sa ñu ci ta Gambia jaar day yeen beykat be Sénégal ak Sénégal ken amul jegi ben saaku engrais mo kelintal ko me hal jam bantu bobo te so so no nga dem Sénégal uti fo état Sénégal état ñu liggé ken mu amul jiwu e man tro soto dang ko utali sa bop e ka c'est ñu ni fawé tout c'est ma amatu ci sa ñu ka fa mel na tout c'est ma man soto ko té c'est le président du ngeen tam ako ba on Sunday, mun naa jënd fukki moto yu es ak ñaar. Asad ma ba taw andal fu la sanna ñoo sensaye. Mu ne daf ko doon may président ci Guinée Bissau. Ka da Guinée Bissau président la sobo tak andal fu la. Lolu ñaata million la ko million den la woti. Aka saku engrais. Ako bi jambandi bo ko gelle do. Saku jiwu. Ako tulo bo ko gelle do. Lum doom ak président lan la président de Gambia am ba di jël fukki moto ak ñaar yu es dana ko may président de Guinée Bissau. Gambia président la mu ne sato. Faale do tan men fu la sanna ba san balaka ta de Guinée Bissau la président la. Ka faay ngesoyna. On ndawi ako fannin kewdo. Adama Barrow mi to. Ako Adama Barrow men fere siré. Yan ndaw yi la ñëwal akana ta fe fondin kewle di tolota ma lool ako ya jaayo fo ndaw la ni ñen ako adama mu fondin kewte kala de ñaan dañu ñëw pour halal ko ako nay ton na ta kala fa hakile la be nga xam ne réew mi on se sabe ko banko ni nit ñi lañu la am seen bopp saaje mool si fansato ulal seen bopp mool sa kay no fayé mom seen bopp mool si fansato waxal seen bopp ko kada si yaamu no fayé to adama Barrow mi toge ko adama Barrow na sita tega ak ñoon ñoy dox Gambia ak jub ba jëne ko tilo leen so be ani ñaata tilo wala be tar la Gambia jàng dañ ne kay leen ñu bokka ko ka na nga kafo ñu ñep ñu xex mbe keno ko ak Muna diam la dal man ko mandila wala mu wali so la candidate oti me yalan ko na tombo mele denda na tombo abuda aketa independent candidate oti dia de coalition nyato ka fa honorable his excellency because president la mati bi ka bodila Adama Barrow Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Adama Barrow mu ne alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Mbe alkalori almami konton. Mu ngi nuyu alkali dëkk bi ak imam dëkk bi. Kontaan ko daal. Adama mu ne kontaan na torop. Mbe kontaan bi. Lan moo tax mu kontaan. Mbay Allah duwa nañ ki jàng. Waaye nag ñaan bi ngeen ko ñaanal fii esaw fii. Duwa ñi jaabi tamit. Mu ne naa woon ne seen ñaan ji nangu na. Laakin ni ko duwa jaabi da. Nga doo gisee mu ne ñaan ji nangu na. Mbir woo mbir laaje. Mu ne mbor boo gis rek. Ate bamban noo la. Du mën a dëgër. Ñun moo bamban ni yaka. Su fekkee ne du ay ñu dëgër ñoo nekk sa gannaawam. Bari bii. Dana waaye tey. doo ko ñu feeyaat mu ne liggéey bi yomb na ci moom trop waaye moo gën ba siri Gambie parce que kilifa yi nga xam ne ñoo toog si gannaawam fii tey wala expérience wartale mu ne ñooñu seen xam-xam ak seen expérience bi dafa yaatu ila londo fana wartale ba pare seen xam-xam dafa yaatu woto ni woon na dafa lotan kooma mu ne du fekkee ne ñooñu ñëw ne man ko nañ ba taxaw si gannaawam to laaloon bi landir yaa di bambandi baake mu ne comme tey dina mu ne woon gaa yi ne kii ñëw bu sedda allo ñu nekk fu ñëw moom mu ne kilifa yi seen ndaje bi pour ñu nekk benn wa mu Gambia la kayrole mu ne loolu jàmm Gambia la
wala yani tan ko wala lolu rek mo wona ne Gambia wala Gambia bi tay jeña kilime ba mo ne ben gis-gis lañ am gis ñun ñep Elia mo mu ne fi mo ne gis-gis bi moy lan wala pour la man sa kunda don di andi fofa moy ñu gëne nguur gi and fofa ci Gambia and ñinal wala ren alsa lon ko wan xamne na président non de ñu banko président bi nga xamne mo nekk ci Gambia fi ñu naan ana fula wala di ñëw rek mo ne mu ne na wone mo mo am ni ñëw boy ana fula wala di ñëw rek wala mo mo am ñëw boy woto wala kan mi la fi la ya bo do ko mo ne dafa bëgg ngeen de tax la loxo mo ka du ko ma bu kenn de sa gannaaw ñu naan ren ni ñu mo bay dal mo ne ñëw ni mo ba foofu la na mo bay dal mo ne ren mo bay foofu la wala carte fayo moy sani carte fayo no sita besi sani carte allo sori juna ñam ew subatel alle carte fay ngeen sani sen carte yi ñu contrôle ban ba ñoo jéxal carte compte mbënd duma ko xamne mo nekk ci suuf loolu ma jur dinañ xam ko tan ko tan la xam wodo mo ne kon ko mo sunu ko ko no son bi mo ngi man ko nak nekk nak beena ak da tari ko di gande li dafa de ka lo xamne tax la ni mu ko ci amere mbal da sere sañi tan mi lu ti kam no man ken mo ne li waxtaan bu yàgga yàgga la ëpp na fukki at ak juróom ba tàdd mu ngi ci d'accord day ni man waa ren ni ak seen wota ñam alhamdulillah yàlla def na am na tay aman ken tati wala du mom aman ken siré jëm nga ko ñi tok ni ala la ba loolu mom yàlla ci boppam moko dogal ñi nan campagne ko campagne ala fa le campagne de Gambia yàlla ci boppam mo campagne Gambia andi wala dal ni ala mo men bantu ne yàlla bu la voté ñi gagné moy dawda la mo déggé ni ko ngay dé gagné mo gagné naka nun jàng mu ne mosoon na fi ñëw naa faale ko waxoon na leen ne ñaa jël na silo tardeta doo gisee yaram bi tar feri yo le asal mu ne feri bi moo tax kabrin talankini ba jibe go 1 o'clock nge feri yo wo si feri bi talan koronto 9 o'clock dem frode la ga fi oto ngalo ne ko na kon xam na ne yo ma la problème la feri sen problème la na sida mu ko sungur ge su toge na do ko fere men kala on fas ni be ñoo defal waajo be na di la me yalla gar ni ngi ko ne lu la ko waaye dula man jàng fa mu ne sax seen soriwul bari feri wala doon fan waaye na feri bi moo tax ñoo ma sori 2 hours 3 hours 4 hours ago ki day man cross la nekk fi 3 hours 4 hours ko ko mu ne ko dem Banjul ni ne me sabati baara jàng su fekkee ne ko daga biir baara fii wala ya ni daga essence fii e do ko la Banjul wala ni ngi Banjul wala do ko ben wala yaatu loolu naka nga ko mën a liggéey mu wax woto kon o bekk la kila fere men gala baran ko la ni ñoo do dañ jaka xeex mooy indil leen loo xam ne dina leen gaawal pour ngeen àggal ci seen liggéeykaay yi wallahi dina wala dama loolu mooy ma promise yaa jamme yaa jamme wana da mun jàng yaa jamme su ñëwee fii wallahi am leen dee lebal fii fa dunya mu tili sax dina wane aduna ñetti fan la wala kununti demba passé na ñëw sa kay amin sana a ene ga ene xamit wa ko do lo way na xamu ko ñu mu do do kera mu ne demba ba sa dawle jawara la na mom ya jamme te la wa ene ko mo ene kon ene bono We're on the 1st of December. On the 1st of December 2016. Mazakunda bondi la jambi nyoge nyengu kifimeka. Mazakunda kudo yombi ndalni sampango ku SCB Gambia fi. Mondi tiyon melbe sir. Borom xam-xam nga xam ne ñoo toog ci Dakar la yeen. Yeen jël la advisor. Ba ko defé ñu nekkal nañ seen advisor. Seen nago ko defé ñu dimbale leen. Mazakunda taman do taw do xal mu na kana ñoo doxé nguur. Wa sinol tinin ko defé ñu ci yoon. ngeen ba doo xoolee suñu sabante ak government sabante tamit lu am famille ko defee ñu ma ci loi président le sembo tala ko def président di ñu wàññi dooleem nga kuma la mo ma falali wala stade bi mo wax nekk ni wala ñu di ko mo ne ren Allah billahi mu ala kula wala sembe dañu ne gaali am na billahi mu amote ni man do ko ko do ko se gaal go ah ba bokki ñobula
Why